Hello everyone, my name's Kitetsu and welcome back to my channel. Now, one of the most requested videos I've had for my model range reviews is the Seraphon. Now, I have to admit that I know so little about this faction that it basically feels like I'm more or less checking them out for the first time. It's a bit different, but you have to bear with me. I'm reacting to things that I've never really looked at. Now, I mentioned in the last range review that I was doing that I kind of needed to get my head around my kind of tier list of which factions I absolutely love the most, which ones are kind of in the middle, and which ones I like but I'm not really going to collect. The first thing I have to say is there is not a single faction in Age of Sigmar that I dislike, but Gloomspite Gits, they are absolutely my favourite at the moment. Nighthaunt are such a close second. Caradron Overlords probably come close in third place as well. I've always loved the Maggotkin of Nurgle models too, and I would probably put Stormcast in my top 5 just for how many amazing models they have. Like, the range is enormous, and I know that some people find that really frustrating, you know, that some of the other factions are getting neglected at the expense of the Stormcast, but it is what it is. So I would say these are possibly my top 5 at the moment. I would definitely say the top 3 are more or less locked in place. Everything in the middle group there is just outside of the top 5. The ones down the bottom, there's normally some reason why they're down there. So for example, Seraphon, I've never really checked out. Fireslayers, who apparently needed to be written down twice, they've got too small a model range at the moment. Cities of Sigmar just feels too much like all the remnants of fantasy. Flesh Eater Courts, too few models. You know, so don't take this personally. It's not that I hate those factions. There's normally just something niggly about them that's pushing them a little bit further down for me. But right, let's check out some dinosaurs. So, Seraphon are a faction that I haven't really looked at, probably because I've just been so busy with other projects. But since I've been away from YouTube, first of all, this scenery here, I've never really particularly looked at it. I remember it being announced, but I never really came and checked it out. So this is probably the first video of a model range review where I'm actually properly looking at a bit of scenery and saying that I absolutely love it. This is seriously cool. I think maybe there's a chance that if I was going to do more than one of these, I might take away the kind of whatever the little portal is in the middle and maybe just make it into a little pyramid. But imagine making an entire like kind of Aztec style village out of loads of these little pyramids. It could look absolutely astonishing. So where do we go from here? I don't think I actually even have the Seraphon battletome. It might be the only one that I don't own. But see, straight away, you can't really go wrong with loads of models sitting on top of a dinosaur. Someone in the comments, tell me how old this model is, because I'm not entirely sure. Maybe this is something from around the end time sort of period. But yep, it holds up incredibly well. It looks really cool. I feel like I have a massive renewed interest in this faction just because I've been reading a lot of the fantasy lore at the moment. And go and check out my fantasy series that I've just started. I really want more people watching that because I'm enjoying it so much. But the lizard men in that story are so cool that I'd actually be tempted maybe to make a Seraphon army that I could also use as a lizard men army in fantasy. But yeah, that is a super cool kit. Absolutely love it. Relatively reasonably priced for what it is. Now, not being too versed in Seraphon lore, I know that we've got the kind of more typical lizard men like the Saurus Warriors. Are they still called Saurus Warriors? They were in fantasy. And then you've got the Skinks. At the moment, I am totally in love with the Skinks, and I think it started off with this model here. How cool is this model? I absolutely love it. It's a combination of the colour of the skin. It looks amazing. These kind of rainbow tropical colours on the feathers. The Aztec-inspired staff thing that he's got. The pose, the scenery he's standing on. I do believe this model is about to unfortunately have a price increase, so you've got very little time left if you want to pick him up for this price. But yeah, this to me is another 10 out of 10 model. I absolutely love it. I'm definitely going to have to pick up one of those at some point soon. We've got 2 start collecting sets. I remember when I did a getting started with Age of Sigmar video, I talked about this one. That is because it represents insane value for money. This used to be £50, and that dinosaur thing in the background £50, that was £50 on its own. So essentially you were buying the dinosaur and getting everything else free. I'm probably really getting on some people's nerves by just calling these dinosaurs. I believe it's actually called a Carnosaur, but yeah, it's a dinosaur. But even at £55, this is still a really good set. What I think I'll do is react to some of those models separately. We've also got Start Collecting Skinks. This is a much newer set. It's actually pretty cool having a faction with 2 different Start Collecting sets. If I had to rush out and buy one of these Start Collecting sets right now, I would start with this one, and that is purely because I love these Skink models so much. And hey look, you get the Star Priest in there as well, but they just have so much character. I absolutely love it. I kind of am starting to really appreciate the factions that don't take themselves too seriously. They've got a bit more character going on to them as well. But here we go, yes, they look amazing. Such a cool colour scheme. The weapons look amazing. I love their kind of shields. They look almost reptilian. The little head fins look very cool. They're an incredibly nice set of models. How many do you get in a box? 24, so a fairly random number. They do seem to be painted in rather variable quality. I'm not really a fan of this style of painting. I know some people really like it where you kind of almost sketch with your paintbrush. But yeah, I mean, this to me just looks absolutely fantastic. It sounds pretty amazing how much customizability you have in here. There's 132 components. You've got javelins, you've got bolt spitters, clubs. If we got a picture of a bolt spitter, that must be that thing there. It's kind of like a blowpipe. There's the javelins, but yeah, they look really cool. And again, fairly reasonably priced. One thing I did notice is when you look at this kit here, someone else will know better than me, but the skinks that are on top of this model actually look slightly different. I don't know, it's hard to tell. Maybe I'm thinking that the skinks that come in the separate box look slightly better, but that could be just the way they've painted them or the angle or the lighting. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so this guy, like I thought, he's a resin kit. As I said, I'm only just getting into the fantasy lore, but I'm pretty sure this was a character from the Lizard Men army. Again, apologies if I'm offending someone for not knowing, because if he is a character, he's probably fairly beloved. But again, it's a great kit. Shame it's resin, but you wouldn't really think it looking at it. It actually still holds up really well, but love his little Triceratops helmet that he's made. And his weapon looks pretty nasty as well. There do seem to be an awful lot of models here that are online only models and quite a lot of resin going on. So let's see, we've got a Razordon hunting pack, resin as well. That I find surprising because these skinks look very similar to the plastic ones. I would say the Razordon looks a little bit dated. I think he would look better if he was a bit broader through the shoulders, but the skinks look absolutely fantastic still. Chameleon skinks, that's what I mean. I've never seen this kit. I didn't even know these things existed, but again, how could you not love them? Are they resin as well? Yeah, they're fine cast too. You can kind of tell with these ones. Again, they look a little bit dated, but the idea behind them as these little almost ninja-like skinks. Why has he got little things tied to him? But yeah, with their blowpipes, and I assume they can change colour depending on their environment to blend in. Yeah, they're basically assassins, exactly what you'd expect. A nice concept. I think it would be good if we got an updated kit. But what have we got next? The Saurus Guard. This is another fantastic kit. Again, these date back to Fantasy 8th edition, but you wouldn't really think it. They're still highly detailed and they look fantastic. I mean, look at that shield with those massive horns on. He's definitely going to do some damage with that. I also really like the design of some of their weapons. Like, that reminds me of a, what are they called? A sawtooth shark or a sawfish, whatever they're called. Very cool, looks incredibly nasty. Really fits in with that kind of Amazonian tribe feeling that they're going for. Again, very cool banners. Nice little musician model there. But yeah, they look fantastic. You can tell that they were probably originally intended for square bases because they're all kind of closed in a little bit as if they're meant to be in rank and file. But they certainly look like they've been given a bit of breathing space by putting them on round bases. So £35, how many of them do we get? 15 of them, so a little bit on the expensive side. I guess they are relatively large. Okay, what have we got next? An Engine of the Gods. I would say that this is possibly an alternate build for the one that we were looking looking above, this is probably an alternate build for the one that we were looking at above. Do you know what? I actually think I prefer this one. Look at this insane gold Aztec-y stuff going on. Whoever's painted that has done an incredible job because it really does look quite like metal. Yeah, that is absolutely stunning. I'm really a fan of this. I wouldn't paint the dinosaur maybe in red. Sorry, the Stegodon, because it's definitely not a Triceratops. But yeah, I would paint that in the colours of the other kit. There we go. Kind of like that. I think that looks nice. And in fact, that is the other build variety there. Oh, see, now I'm looking at it. I really don't know. They both look absolutely fantastic. The over-the-top gold, though, I think is probably going to win out for me in the end. But yeah, that's a nice kit. Shame it's an online-only one. It almost feels like models are reaching the end of their shelf life when they start only putting them on the website. So we've got this guy here. He's obviously fine cast. Looks a little bit angular, like we could have done with a few more rounded edges on him. He's still obviously on a square base. Oh wow, I'm eating my words. He's not fine cast. He's actually multi-part plastic. That's surprising. But yeah, he looks really cool. If you wanted him on a round base, it would be pretty easy to convert him. But he does just look a tiny bit angular compared to some of the other models. I particularly like his weapon and his shield though. So again, I'm assuming that he was a fantasy character and I'm not entirely sure who he was. We've got the Saurus Knights and the Veteran. I'm just going to look at these ones for now. Again, these come in that start collecting set, so far better value to buy that box than to buy them separately. As a cavalry unit, they look pretty cool. Incredibly nicely posed, that little cold one, if that's what they're called. But yeah, nice models. I think when I was looking at the picture initially, I was thinking, do they look a bit dated? But when you are able to rotate them, they look an awful lot better. So I'm assuming they look a lot better in the flesh than when you actually just look at that photo there. But yeah, again, the weapons look very cool, and I'm a big fan of the armor on the cold one, and the shields again look really cool. That's a fairly decent banner there, really like that. Now, some of these ones that I'm looking at, I would say that the head sculpts of the cold ones look a little bit dated, perhaps a little bit like a 90s cartoon. That's cool if that's the vibe you're going for. I think it's a shame you can't put the armor on all of them because I like that a lot better. So we've got a Salamander hunting pack. That's kind of a slightly different version of the Razordon hunting pack. Again, I'm not really sure about the sculpt of his head. Something about it just again looks a little bit dated. Oh, okay, they do have Saurus Warriors. So what's the difference between the Saurus Warriors and the Saurus Guard? Let's open both of them and have a quick look. Okay, these guys are way more elite looking and heavily armored. They look bigger, they look more aggressive. These are just your bog standard troops. But you know what? I absolutely love these models. They look fantastic. As a battle line option, they look really good. I think I'd be quite happy having both of those, to be honest. These guys look like they've got nastier weapons, perhaps. Nice variety of spears and sort of swords and clubs and banners that you can take with them. So chosen from the largest and strongest of the Saurus to protect their Slam Masters. So yeah, these are basically the elite Saurus Warriors, but very cool. Right, so what have we got next? We've got a Skink Priest with a feathered cloak. The feathers definitely look a little bit too thick and dated. Again, he's resin, and you really can tell with this one that it's a resin model. Again, he probably was a character from fantasy, I'm not really sure, but of the different versions, I way prefer the Star Priest. Like that to me is just a superb model. An Astrolith bearer, resin as well, but this one looks exceptionally cool. I absolutely love the standard that he's holding. He probably was once an 8th edition battle standard bearer or something like that, but that is a really nice model. Such a shame it isn't plastic, but it certainly doesn't look dated, and you wouldn't glance at that and think, yeah, that's a resin old dated model. So what does he do? He unleashes devastating celestial power. But yeah, no, I'm a really big fan of that. It looks really cool. I do like the fact that some of these are quite reasonably priced because they're slightly older kits. Next, we've got the Saurus Sunblood, finely detailed 6-piece resin. again, it just doesn't quite stack up on the level of detail to some of the more modern kits. I think maybe the biggest giveaway is the arm and the hand. If you get that at the wrong angle, it kind of just looks like a slab of meat. He would certainly fit in with a really retro fantasy army, and in fact, I'm being a bit harsh, he really doesn't look that bad at all. I think I just didn't like the arm initially, but that shield is seriously cool. And there is a surprising amount of detail actually on this model. Yeah, no, I've changed my mind. I love it. Again, almost certainly must have been a character from Lizard Men. Blimey, why are there so many resin kits left in this army? And they all look really cool. What have we got here? The Croak. So again, a kind of more elite looking unit. The face sculpts look a little bit awkward. They remind me a little bit of Sully from Monsters Inc. with those enormous broad shoulders and a big kind of leaning forwards neck with tiny little feet. The musculature on the stomach and the abdomen looks really nice, but I think I would rather just buy a box of Saurus Guard personally. Wow, resin as well, so much resin. Okay, getting down to the last few units, let's take a look at the two flying kits next. We've got Pterodon Riders and Ripidactyl Riders. So the Ripidactyls, these look fantastic. Here we go, let's zoom in a bit. Yeah, they look seriously cool. Maybe a slightly awkward side profile, but from every other angle, that is a superb kit. Again, whoever's painted that has done an incredible job. Very, very cool color schemes there. Amazing poses of the Seraphon that are sitting on top. They look really nice. I really like that. And what is going on with the little toad thing? Very cool. Love it. Yeah, no, I'm a really big fan of these models. Now I want to read up a little bit about what they are. Thank goodness. Multi-part plastic. I think that is a really, really cool kit. Let's look at the Pterodon Riders. Zoom in a little bit. Yes, see, these are really nice too. Again, look at the incredible color schemes they've gone with. I don't think my painting ability could necessarily pull that off that well, but it looks like they fly over the enemies and drop these giant metal balls on top of them. The sculpts of the heads of these things are absolutely astonishing. Very cool. And these ones look like they've got the Skinks on top of them instead of the Saurus Warriors. His flaming weapon looks nice, but very fragile. But yeah, these look super, super, super cool. I think I would want to arm them with something else if they're going to come with that weapon option that looks so fragile. So can also be assembled as Ripidactyl Riders, so you can actually build them either way. That's pretty nice. Ah, perfect. Optionally armed with either Star Strike Javelins or the Bowlers, or whatever they're called. So yeah, if I build these, I'm definitely going to be giving them the Javelins. But again, included in the Start Collecting set, so I absolutely love both of these versions. I could definitely see myself actually picking up a couple of these boxes and building up the different options in there. So finally, we've got 3 different versions of the Slan. Well, one of them's a Skink Starseer, but it looks like we've got generic Slan, we've got Lord Croak, and then we've got our Skink Starseer. So let's take a look at this one first. That's actually a fantastic model. Really aged well. A little bit expensive. Finely detailed resin as expected, but incredibly detailed. That to me definitely does not look like an old model. I think it depends how you're going to paint it up. This one looks like maybe they painted it quite a while ago, but a very nice model all the same. And now that I'm getting into the Lizardmen lore, it really makes me want to get one of these models. But the Slan in Warhammer Fantasy were extremely powerful. I know they're meant to be the same things, but I don't know how much they've changed or retconned the lore on that. Fairly remarkable how close they actually look to the artwork though. So yeah, that's a nice kit. We've got the Lord Croak one. I know that in both Age of Sigmar and Fantasy, the idea behind Lord Croak is that he died and he was so powerful that his spirit couldn't really leave his body. He's kind of transcended death, and therefore, even though his body's kind of old and rotting, the spirit has remained there, using it as a vessel. But yeah, this one is great. It's definitely showing its age a little bit more, but actually when you get a zoom in, it's not too bad at all. It's nice to know that even this heavy metal painter had a little bit of difficulty with the white there. But yeah, very cool, iconic models, nice characters. But then because I love these Skinks, this one immediately leaps out as one that I would want to buy. And it's kind of annoying because I like the Slan more from the perspective of what they represent, but this model just looks absolutely fantastic. Greatest amongst the Skink spellcasters, unclouded by the memories of the eons that Guard can belabor the minds of the Slann. So yeah, I'm going to have to go away and read up on the lore on the difference between the Slann and the Skink Starseers. Obviously the Slann are going to be more ancient and more powerful, but nevertheless this is an incredibly nice model, and again they've given it a very updated paint scheme which I absolutely love. I'm a particular fan of this multicolored feather paint scheme that looks really nice. Right, and that leaves us with our last two kits. We've got the different Carnosaur builds, which can also build a Troglodon. I'm going to assume that that is the same kit. Yes, it is. Immediately I can tell because it's in the Start Collecting set. But I'm a big fan of multi-part kits where you can build them in different ways. My Empire Griffin, or should I say Free Guild General, I've built it as Karl Franz on Deathclaw, and then I've taken the spare parts and I've used it to build other models. So I now have an extra battle wizard that I've placed on a horse. So it's always really nice to have loads of customization options like this. So this has a Skink Oracle on top. Very cool. I do love the Skinks, but I don't think I would be able to theme an army entirely around them just because I love some of these Saurus Warriors and Guard. But here we go. Here's the more classic build, the Saurus Old Blood on the Carnosaur. Which one looks better? I would have to say overall this one is going to look more intimidating. God, why do they have to photograph them from so far away? It looks insanely cool. There's no other way to really describe it. As a centerpiece for your army, like, this is the one to get. It's going to look pretty amazing having that at the forefront of your collection, and that really only leads the Bastillodon. I do feel like there are two different builds for this, but again, he looks absolutely amazing. There's one of the other build versions. That looks incredibly nice as well. Are they both covered in skinks? Yes, they are. So we've got one with the giant crystal on the top and whatever that is supposed to be. But yeah, rounding things off with another really cool model. I wonder what that is supposed to be. Let me check. So the Ark of Sotek or the Solar Engine. But yeah, super cool. I do like the fact that they've got the two different carapace options for the head. This one's got one of those more Aztec-y headdress style things going on, whereas this guy's got the massive mean kind of head horn. But yeah, that finishes off my look at the Seraphon. 2 Start Collecting sets. That's pretty awesome. Both of them look like they're probably very good value for money. Yeah, I can definitely see myself collecting a force of Seraphon. I would love to make an Aztec themed gaming board. That would be incredibly cool. The only thing that I think slightly lets them down is the fact that there is so much resin going on with this army. But even if you were to ignore all of the resin stuff, there is more than enough here to build up a really impressive looking army. Having looked at these models, do I now think they deserve to be a little bit higher? I would say I'm going to firmly place them into the middle category, and they're now definitely a faction I want to start collecting. And I guess all that leaves me to say is that I apologise for the fact that I really do not know much about the Seraphon. That kind of made the video even more fun to do. But yeah, I'm by no means an expert. This was more a bit of fun for me to look at these models and start checking them out for the first time. You would think for someone like me who's been in the hobby so long, I wouldn't have left it this long to check out one of the major factions. But I guess I've just been so busy with all the other ones that I never really thought about it. And obviously with their new battletome, the new scenery, the new Start Collecting set, now's possibly a better time than ever to get into the Seraphon. But yeah, super cool range of models. So don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new to the channel. Go check out my Facebook Warhammer group. It's called Kitetsu Warhammer Clan. No pressure, but I would be eternally grateful if you became a Patreon. And please go and check out my Warhammer Fantasy Lore series. I'm going to be loading the second part up, I think, tomorrow. It's already recorded, it's ready to go, but I just need to build up like more of an audience for those videos. They are so fun to make, and the storyline is absolutely amazing. I think these videos would be just as good for people returning to Warhammer Fantasy who know a lot about it, and people who are totally beginners, but they're aimed at being a lot less dense and information heavy. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best audience on all of YouTube, and I'm humbled every day by the response I get to my videos. But stay safe, stay awesome, and I will see you guys really soon.